Ja, mera.
This thing, so, but if you stick to this, Hey guys, Chris Jenkins here, back with episode 2 of the podcast. And speaking of, I would like to name this podcast something. I've thought like Chris Jenkins Drums Podcast, but it just doesn't really have a ring to it. So if you have any suggestions, please put them down below, or you can always message me on my Instagram, chrisjenkins_drums. Again, we're gonna create more of a format, I think, with these as time goes by. But for now, I'm just gonna continue to, just speak my mind and potentially answer some questions and things and topics that I get a lot. So firstly, I also did mention in the last one that I was going to be shaving my head, cut my hair, thanks to my sister, because she did almost everything with a pair of scissors after I messed it up with the razor. So it turned out all right. You probably can't see all of it, obviously, but that's that. And it's just funny that every guy is probably going through this same thought process, like, oh no, it's been 2 weeks and I haven't shaved my head. But that's definitely been the case for me. I'm in this episode, I would like to just talk about what I've been up to during isolation. This is obviously an extremely unique period of time that we're in, and unlike no other, we all have an immense amount of downtime, and I think that naturally, also with limitation and confinement, has spawned a lot of different, I think, thoughts of reevaluation and reflection for a lot of us. I think things are a lot more evident, and there's more of a stark contrast in terms of the kinds of things we consume, the kinds of things that we spend and save our money for or on, and how we spend our time, the people we spend our time with. Every aspect of life, I feel like, is just being highlighted by the fact that all these externalities and external responsibilities that we have and cloud our minds on a day-to-day basis sort of just stripped away now. And so I think it really exposes us and makes people obviously a lot more vulnerable. And I think that's where you see perhaps through social media that certain peers are maybe either thriving or not thriving as much. And my heart goes out to the extroverts in particular, because I'm sure you guys aren't getting the level of socialization that you're used to or desire, but again, I'm sure this period is going to be temporary, so just to hang in there. But for me, I've been very much focused on songwriting, and I'm going to get into that. Firstly, with the fact that my first album, it's a drumless album, an album created with the intention of having drummers practice and play along to, and to just be able to express themselves and interpret in different ways. Very much similar to what Kaz Rodriguez, the UK drummer, has done with his albums and songs, and had other huge drummers play those songs of his. That's kind of been the goal for this first album, and so he was obviously a big inspiration for me doing that. And the cool thing with the album is that you'll be able to, again, play it is very much open to interpretation. You can play it very simplistically, you can play more complex rhythms, and there are definitely a lot of ideas and rhythms in the songs for you to mess around with and do complicated things with, but you can also very much lay back and play simple grooves over. So I hope that it does come across as being an album that's diverse and easy to adapt to and play along to, because I do also plan on recording my own interpretations and play-alongs to, or playthroughs to, those songs at some point down the line. So it'll be awesome, really awesome, to see other drummers do the same and see how they approach playing those songs differently. So that album, this first album, which I haven't got a name for, I haven't got album artwork for yet, and I do need to go about learning how to actually distribute the album on the various platforms. It's currently being mixed and mastered, so it's almost finalized now. I finished writing this album about 4 months ago or so, and it took me about 3-4 months of kind of intense writing. I would just go to a cafe like every day and just work on it for hours. I think most of the baristas were probably very sick of me, just constantly ordering cappuccinos. If you know, you know. But that was the process for that album, and because that's now been done and it's being mixed and mastered by Sam, a good friend and colleague of mine. He is, currently doing deals. Firstly, he's very much dropped his prices, and really knowledgeable guy, knows what he's doing. He's very straight to the point and effective, in my opinion. So if you are an artist, you currently have an album in the works or anything, shoot him a message. If you have a serious inquiry, he's definitely worth contacting. But he's been mixing that album for me now, and it's almost done, from what he said. So I'm really excited for that. However, one sort of thought that arose, I guess, in recent weeks regarding its finalization has been that I feel like I've improved so much since in my songwriting abilities and my production. And, that had me very hesitant, I think, to actually almost want to release it. And it's actually what I think took so long with the album initially, because I kept saying I was going to put it out and put it out. I think just as I progressed, I then started to look at those older and older songs with a lot less fondness, because I feel like I've improved so much since, and that's obviously a very natural, I think, occurrence. And I've very much learned that this actually is the case for a lot of musicians and creatives. Pardon me, to not want to put things out just because of perfectionism, essentially. And that helped me just come, through also talks with people as well, just to come to the acceptance that it is what it is, and it's very much a capsule, and a little pocket of reflection in terms of what I was thinking and feeling at the time, and where I was at skill wise with songwriting and production, etc. So my point being, it is what it is, and I am happy that it's completed. So this was probably one of the worst plugs for my first album ever, that I'm not that stoked on it. I very much am, but I just feel like I've improved a lot since. So there's a lot that I felt like I could have done differently and things I could change. But again, it is what it is, and I will definitely keep you guys updated once that is done, complete, and out. And it will be free as well. At least that's the goal. My aim is to have it be a free album. I don't want to charge for this. If you want to play along, just do so. And so I've been working on this second album now, and the main difference is that I have drums on it. I've gone ahead and used electronic drums, things like 808s, hi-hats, kicks, all that stuff that you hear in a lot of modern music, hip-hop music, trap music. Hip-hop is a huge inspiration and influence for me, so that's kind of where that's come from. And I do feel that it just adds so much life to these songs, although it has now made me reconsider what my actual goal for this album is, because now to drum to it, because there's already sort of more strict rhythms and bass drum patterns, etc., it would entail the drummer having to learn those parts more specifically. So I'm not sure if it's going to be just an album for the sake of it being an album and a piece of creative work. That's for me to sort of come to terms with down the line and see what the main goal or what I want it to be is. But it's been a time period where obviously we have an immense amount of downtime, and as I stated in my previous episode, I've always been quite extreme. I'm very much an all-in person or nothing. I struggle to dabble and manage my habits and routines in less extreme manners. So without being super vague, I've been working about 10 to 15 hour days almost every day, just sat in my drum stool with my little desk set up and just songwriting and being completely engrossed in the process. And in all honesty, this is one of the things I would like to do with the podcast, just be a bit more transparent. We all have our vices and flaws, but without justifying further, my sort of thought process regarding this whole thing has been how to balance the sheer amount of work capacity and productivity with health and balance. I feel like I've definitely neglected health to a decent extent. Ironically, I was a personal trainer before, but I've been extremely sedentary, other than the occasional grocery trip. I've even, for the most part, when I'm playing my songs back and listening over them, I'll just walk around the apartment. But other than that, I'm literally sat down just working on the music and not much else takes as much precedence or has. Even food, that's been a bit of an issue. Again, I don't want anyone to like stress extremely. It's nothing extreme. I'm still eating and all that. But a lot of those things, socialization, etc. Some of those may be more healthier foundations to a regular person have just sort of been neglected because I've been so into this album, and I think I've caught myself romanticizing that sort of prospect as well, because I think of all the great creative pieces that were created under perhaps more dire circumstances or emotional states, or through under the influence of certain vices. I've reached a few times now points of delirium, and again, not like extreme delirium, but they were definitely somewhat delirious states, which was quite an interesting feeling. And it sounds kind of messed up to say this, but then during that sort of state of mind or mode of being, I was almost then more inclined to want to continue writing, because I felt like this is such an unusual and temporary state of mind state for me to be in, and so I want to see what I can produce, and under this sort of filter, and what comes out of it. Because what I was saying, my albums and albums art in general, it's very much a reflection of a person's state and maybe emotional well-being, whatever they're going through. It's very much a reflection of a period of their life. So I feel like this is doing that, although that, again, romanticization is not a great justification for it, but it's just what it's been what it's been. And again, it's actually been amazing, because I've written some of the best songs I feel like I've ever written. In fact, I don't think it's even disputable, really. The songs I've written have been so much more better now with the contrast of my previous album. I have a lot more clarity in my sight and vision and hearing, even with what needs to be done and what actually sounds better and what things I'm missing in the previous one. So things like that, a lot of improvement, progression, self-development's always obsessed me like that. So the only kind of downtime I've had outside of the occasional video games with my housemate has been to just watch things like tutorials, piano lessons, producer tutorials, anything like that, anything I find inspiring or fruitful and productive to what I'm trying to accomplish. That's kind of been the only sort of content that I've been consuming, really, otherwise. And outside of that, one of the other things I think that's really been on my mind has been goals. And I think it obviously has been for a lot of us, but my goal for the longest time, and still is, to be a touring musician, to be a full-time musician who's traveling the world and playing to audiences, to play to crowds. That's still very much my dream. But I think, again, with the lack of externalities sort of clouding my mind, I've had a chance to take that goal and vision of mine and go even deeper with it, and to realize at least that one thing I found extremely profound was the thought of how do I put this? So, under certain states of being, under certain emotions, that there's something we can all relate to. We have albums, we have musicians, we have, even outside of art, whoever inspires you, whoever gets you through things. And for me, that's just always a thing in life, that music is my therapy and cathartic way of going about that, and channeling those emotions and getting me through those times. And because that has always been such a profound process for me, I've realized even more so the importance and the weight behind what I do, and I guess the meaning of what I do, that what I do matters, what I produce matters. And there's a level of influence coming from my perfectionistic side there, but my point being that I feel even more so, I think, obligated to really, make what I can out of this life. Life is short and it's finite, and time is essentially the most valuable resource. It's something that we never get back. So, I've realized that over time, and thankfully been able to kind of destroy some of those more habits that haven't. I've been able to destroy some of the habits that weren't facilitating my goals. Sorry. And hopefully that's a goal for most people, but it's been a lot more, again, clear to me recently with all this downtime and how I spend my time, that I feel that it should be directed towards what I feel like almost my purpose is, just what I find personally fulfilling and meaningful. And if I can, and I know I have to some degree, and I struggle to really come to terms with it at times, but I've gotten messages from people over the last few years, and I mean, I started doing YouTube videos like 10 years ago, but especially with the Instagram thing over the last few years, there have been people who have told me that my playing was maybe not only enjoyable to them, but inspiring in some sense, or perhaps my more personal messages and stories and insights were helpful to someone, or got someone through something, or that we were able to have a conversation that helped them. Things like that just always has held an immense amount of meaning and fulfillment to me. And so the weight of that, I feel like, the goal is to increase how much of that weight, I guess, I can carry, how much responsibility I'm capable of. And this time period has really pushed my, work capacity again, and to unhealthy extents, which I'm aware of, especially now, and is temporary. So again, please, I appreciate concern, but I'm fine. It's just been a more temporary mode of being. And so, that what I found extremely important is that, like most of us, can hopefully leave this world a better place to have an impact. And I don't care about celebrity status. I don't care about making a lot of money. But reading those sorts of messages, and just knowing that I'm having a positive impact in the way and manner in which I'm trying to go about doing so, music, that's like it for me. That's really it. That's the thing. I don't know what to call it, but that's, yeah. And other than that, a lot of profound thoughts, album songwriting. Haven't been able to play drums still, unfortunately, but for the most part, I tend to be very stoic about things. The things that are out of our control, I don't think deserve our energy and stress, etc., because those things weigh down on you and they'll hold you back in the long run. Take the situation for what it is, and I think I don't want to downplay the importance of downtime and relaxation and recuperation, especially for those of us who have been working hard or in multiple jobs for a long time. Take this time to really sort of rediscover yourself, to get closer to yourself, to just really recover and rest. I really do believe in that, and I have been doing that as well. But also to utilize this time, because no other time is really like this, where we have so much downtime and opportunity to work on that project maybe we always wanted to work on, or start that business that we wanted to start, and things like that. So that kind of thing has just been so much more evident to me now, and what I do with my downtime and how I spend it, and I feel like the majority of it, and I'm still discovering how much of my time I'm able to physically, I guess, psychologically, physiologically, everything put into what I feel like my goal and purpose is. But that's something I'll figure out, and that's what I'm figuring out and trying to improve in. But otherwise, yeah, I've been writing these songs, and I do release little update snippets on my story, so you can check them out on my Instagram profile, which is _Jenkins_drums. A lot of updates there, and actually I'll probably post more and more, just because I'm writing so much more more now. So really happy with how the album's coming along, and I can't wait for this one to be finished, and just the progression that I'm making and the improvements I'm making. It really, really, really excites me. Yeah. So yeah, can't wait to play drums again eventually when this is over. If you have any questions again, or podcast title names, for example, please put them in the comments. Any questions, topics, discussion. I just want to create more of, again, community here, and just have an opportunity to have a closer connection to you guys. So I feel like a lot of you deserve it, especially having been so supportive and encouraging towards me. So yeah, this is it for episode 2. I'm sorry if it was a bit more deep and that, but I guess that's sort of a taste again of my personality and what to expect with future episodes. I tend to ramble a lot and kind of go quite deep in a lot of things. So I'll see how that progresses in future episodes. But yeah, that's it for today's episode, guys. So thank you so much if you've watched this far in. Leave a thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like the video. I don't mind. Subscribe if you want to see more. And until then, Chris Jenkins _drums is my Instagram profile. Pretty much daily content on there. And if you have any more serious inquiries, you can email me at chrisjenkinsdrums@gmail.com. Yeah, thanks, guys.